Hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey. Hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey. Hello, and welcome back to Reclaim Within. Life's transformations can feel very disorienting, but transformation is also necessary for evolution. My prayer is that this episode brings you clarity, reassurance, and maybe a little bit more strength to just trust the process. Trust the process of growth and evolution. So let's talk about the truth about evolution. It's not comfortable. It requires us to descend into the unknown. And that's not a comfortable experience. And us humans, we are programmed to seek comfort, even in the patterns that are actually causing a lot of discomfort. If it's a known pattern, we'll default to it. There's a quote, I'm going to botch it, but something like, we'll take the familiar hell over the unfamiliar heaven. And I think about that quote often when it comes to the choice to lean into growth, which I think I like to use the word growth for evolution. Evolution can sometimes feel really overpowering, but to evolve is to grow. We are here to constantly evolve. Life is for growing, life is for evolving. So if you are choosing the path of evolution, you are choosing to descend into the unknown and to reclaim yourself in ways that maybe you didn't know you needed reclaiming. From very personal experience, I have been unfolding willingly for over a decade. And every time I think I've reached my edge, life asks for more. I am lovingly challenged to step into even more of who I am. I believe right now, collectively, as a collective consciousness or collective culture, we are standing at a threshold of transformation, and it is not just personal. It shows up for us very personally, but it is actually a global experience that's happening. That's why there's so much chaos seemingly in the external experience of the world. Are you resisting the call of evolution? Are you leaning into it? Are you allowing the transformation, or are you resisting? Evolution is not just about growth. It is also about shedding. It's a continual process of initiation, one that asks you to let go of the smaller self, the ego identity, and all the things that you thought defined you. What does this mean? It means stepping down from roles you once cherished. It means leaving behind relationships that no longer align with you. It means calling up the people that you are in relationships with to step into evolution with you, to release their old belief structures that no longer serve them so that they can be on the evolutionary path with you. It means allowing for yourself to no longer be who you once were. It's surrendering a worldview that once gave you certainty. To evolve or to lean into transformation, it is a kind of death, but it is a sacred one. And just like all deaths, it paves the way for rebirth. Just as the seasons turn, the cells in our body turn, the way we orient in the world will turn. If you are on the evolution path, you will lean into rebirth after rebirth after rebirth. And evolution requires us to fall into the descent. I have been falling deep into a personal descent and watching aspects of my life dissolve before my very eyes. There's uncertainty, there's grief, there's a complete restructuring happening. And it's been a dance to acknowledge the fear and the resistance and the judgment that I've had coming up. What I'd like to do is I'd like to normalize that process. I'd like to normalize that as a part of our transformational journey and a part of our evolutionary journey is to have uncertainty, grief, and restructuring come up in our experiences. After every winter, there will be spring again. It is just the breaking apart before the next becoming. A friend of mine once actually shared with me, I always know I'm about to get to something really good in life when everything seems to be falling apart. When I feel like I've hit I now get excited that there's a rebirth coming, a shedding of the skin. It is the year of the snake. So this is the year of big, deep transformation on a archetypal level. So if you too are in this descent with me, this evolutionary descent, let us both remember that there will be spring again. This is just the breaking apart before the next becoming. And the energy that must be putting forth in a tiny little bud on a tree right before it pops open, that energetic movement, that transformational tension must be actually really intense. I don't know. I've never been a bud on a tree that I can remember. So what in your life is shifting? What do you feel slipping through your fingers? And instead of gripping tighter, can you surrender? Can you allow it? Why do we have trouble allowing it? We have forgotten to serve the soul and have become too comfortable serving the ego. That was the answer my teacher gave me when I asked, where did we go wrong? Why is society like this? Why is the collective culture like this? And that's what his answer was, that we have forgotten to serve the soul and have become too comfortable serving the ego. The ego seeks control and attachment. The ego seeks comfort, security. It wants the fixed identity. It wants to know exactly what's coming next. And that's not a bad thing. But if we only serve the ego, we're only serving our desire for control, attachment, comfort, security. The soul seeks expansion. The soul seeks more life to be moving through our experience, growth, release, surrender into the unknown. That is how we serve the soul. So we serve the ego because it gives us this false sense of security or a false sense of control. And you know what? Sometimes I just want to feel that security. I think we all do. The acknowledgement is sometimes I do want to just rest in my ego experience, and that's okay. But at the bigger picture of all of this, actually what I want is to be in service to the soul. The ego is not meant to lead. It is actually meant to serve the soul. And that's the big shift that I've made, at least in my own experience, is not to make the ego bad and wrong, not to demonize it, want it to go away, just working on having that part of me that wants security and comfort to serve the expansion, to serve life, to serve growth. The soul doesn't actually care as much for comfort. It cares much more for expansion, for that orientation to growth. The soul calls us toward experiences that will break us open and force us to see ourselves beyond those masks that we wear. And something that I've been realizing is that there's a part of me that wants to hold on to outdated versions of myself. And in that holding on to the version of myself that's no longer fitting anymore, there's actually more suffering that's created. Because instead of allowing for myself to just transform, I'm trying to fit myself in a place that I feel like I might have outgrown. And so the invitation that I've been sitting with is, can I trust the version of me that is falling away, is actually making space for something greater? And there are some days and times where I feel like I really can hit that flow really well and trust that bigger unfolding. And then at the same time, there's other moments or other times where I'm fearful of what I will lose. And it's more of having the acknowledgement and the awareness of the experience of that, and just acknowledging the fear and knowing that whether I am afraid or not, I still want to orient towards the soul. I brought up the seasons earlier, and I really feel like, as far as evolution goes, nature is such a beautiful mirror for the transformation that a lot of us are moving through. And one of the earlier lessons I got in my time working with people in empowerment and transformational work is that we are actually meant to contract and expand, just like the seasons do. It is actually important for us to allow for that movement. And when we feel like everything is breaking down, that's often right before we break through. So right when it's the coldest month of the year or the rainiest month of the year, wherever you are in the world, it's like you get to the point where you're like, I just want to be out, and you just I'm ready. And it's just this feeling of like, stir crazy. And that's when a nice day comes and there's the expansion. And to practice sitting in the discomfort of the contraction builds our resilience. And that's something that our ancestors were actually forced to do much more than we currently are. There's so much in our current time-space reality that builds so much comfort in our lives. Air conditioning, heating. I went on this tour with my parents down in Charleston, and it was a horse tour, and they were talking about how hot it got in the summer and how they designed the homes so that there would be a breeze come through and they'd sleep on the porch because it was so hot. And just that realization that we have so many luxuries at our fingertips that actually keep us even more and more and more comfortable. We don't actually have to contend with as much, at least externally. And I think that doesn't always serve us. I think that there's a place where the soul and the ego need to be uncomfortable so we can build the resilience, so that we can step into bigger versions of ourselves, so we can claim that wisdom, so we can integrate the lessons. Sometimes we just need some comfort. There are some days we just need to orient towards softness and care and comfort. And some of us need more of that than others. Some of us are very hard on ourselves. Yeah, some people out there actually just more nurture, more care. But really, to go back to the seasonal experience of it, we are constantly evolving. The seasons are constantly evolving. Nature is constantly evolving. It's constantly shifting. In my realization with astrology work, with understanding and studying the cosmos, it was really important for me to be able to understand the parallels between humans and nature, and how we move through our own winters of our own lives, and that there's patterns cosmically that we can connect to those moments. And it doesn't make the winter easier, but it makes it a bit more settling to just know that this is a winter, this is a cosmic transit, and it too shall pass. Some winters last longer than we think we can endure, but without winter, there is no spring. Without descent, there is no rebirth. At least no true rebirth. And so for myself, each time that I emerge, I know I get to see the world through new eyes, because this is the nature of the cycle. The descent required in evolution is winter. Cold, unrelenting, stripping us bare. But no winter lasts forever, and spring always comes. The expansion is on the other side. It's just how willing are you to be in honor, or in that connection with the natural world? How willing are you to allow for your ego to surrender to the soul? So the path forward and the invitation I have for you is evolution, and the descent that comes along with evolution is not for the faint of heart. However, it is the only way that I have found to reclaim your fullness, to remember your wholeness. It's the only way to birth in a world of honor, dignity, and respect for life. We are building the rebirth. We are descending together, and it's going to look very different for each and every one of us. This is the work. This is the invitation. Choose your soul over your ego. Tell your ego, we are here to serve something greater than. Do you choose to walk a path of transformation? And if you do choose to walk a path of transformation or evolution, can you choose it over and over and over again? And the hardest work of all is to allow ourselves to step into the unknown, acknowledging our fear and holding the path before us with so much reverence. The unfolding doesn't always feel good, but if you are being pulled towards evolution or that feeling of wanting to evolve, you are not alone. And if you are resisting, what would happen if you acknowledged the resistance, thanked it for its service, allowed for it to take the back seat and soften into the transformation? I am such a fighter. I fight transitions. I fight transformation. I have worked really hard to let myself surrender. And oh boy, is this ever a time of huge surrender, cosmically, collectively. So sit with what is shifting in your life right now. Maybe journal on it and allow for yourself to acknowledge wherever you are in this devotional path of evolution, of this path of life and connecting to more life. I myself am in this descent. I'm in this commitment to evolution, and it's not going the way I thought it would go or the way I think it's going to go. That's part of the fun, but that's part of the unknown. And that's the part that doesn't always feel so warm and cozy. So it's really a dance of how do I bring in the gentleness and the compassion for myself when I feel the transformation and the evolution happening. I would also like to invite you to the next cohort of the Building Inner Kingdoms course. If you are at all interested, even if you're a tiny bit interested, please reach out and let me know. I believe the next cohort is going to be starting April 10th. It kind of depends on how many people I have interested or not. I will be doing 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I would be honored to get to dive into sharing more about the methodology behind creation that's inspired by the creation methodology. That's what this course used to be called, is exploring the creation methodology. But I've added a lot to it. And so now it's shifted into building your own inner kingdom, which is really a lot of what creation is building your own connection to this evolution and to devoting your path to the path of transformation. And that requires a lot of tools in the inner world. We have tools in the outer world, like shovels for the garden and ratchets for the car. But we actually need tools for our inner experience so that we can understand ourselves more and be on the path of evolution, be on the path of transformation, be here in commitment to helping bring more life in to this time-space reality. So let me know if that feels good for you. If you'd like to join us, I'd like to get at least 5 or 6 people enrolled in that. And if I don't, I probably will push it to a further date. I really appreciate you sharing your time with me today. It is such an honor. Thank you for being with me in my own descent and my own evolution. Wow, things do not look the way that I thought they would. Thank goodness I have astrology. It's been something I've studied since I was 13, and it's the patterning of it has always been so helpful to me. I do not see it the way that other people do. I don't see astrology as a belief system. I don't see it as something to believe in. I see it more as a pattern to acknowledge. I heard a quote recently. It said, "History does not repeat itself. History follows a pattern," or something like that. It's never exactly the same from one transit to the next. The archetypes follow these patterns, and we can get a lot of understanding about what we ourselves are going through when we understand what's currently happening in the cosmos as it relates to our experience. Because one of the Hermetic laws is as above, so below. And what is happening on a micro personal level is also happening on a macro cosmic level. And it is all frequency. It is all frequency playing into itself. And so different frequencies match, set you off in different ways, depending on how you came into this frequency matrix. And it's been fascinating. So if you want to know more about that, also definitely let me know. I love leaning into the astrological pieces. I definitely have some big transits happening in my chart, so I'd be happy to look at yours too. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you did enjoy it, please share it with a friend, someone who maybe is going through a lot of evolution or transformation in their lives right now, so they know that they're not alone, that I am with them in this deep, beautiful surrender. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.